All right, my name is Perry.
My name is Zarek.
My name is Seth.
My name is Mark-Hel.
And we are going to, our remix is going to be us getting non-athletes to appeal or feel for athletes who suffer from injuries and get them to understand the culture and maybe the
Mental health side of
mental
things.
health side of sports. So my first question is, if you guys have suffered from an injury, how did that affect your daily life?
Yeah, so last spring I suffered from a patella dislocation and an MCL and MPFL tear. That was playing dodgeball and not actually doing my sport, but that was a grade 2 tear, so luckily I didn't need surgery. As far as like affecting my daily life goes, I wasn't able to walk on it for a month and a half, so I had to crutch around everywhere. And then after I was able to walk again, PT took maybe like 4 months in order to be able to bear weight and walk around on it, and half a year to be able to run on it again. So I'm still recovering from that, but it completely like affected my daily life with not being able to be independent with anything, daily activities, just even walking. So what about you?
I've never had a major injury, but I've seen people who have ACL tears, stuff with their knee, possible Achilles. They just take a while to recover. PT can take a big hit on your mental health, and just getting places, as Zarek mentioned, just being able to walk your daily life definitely impacts it. So, Mark-Hel, anything?
I've never had an injury.
Okay.
I never really had an injury.
Okay.
One thing I can say is like for the people that do like suffer through injury and stuff like that, I can like see like how it affects like their daily life, especially like when it like prevents them from doing the things they love.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can get that.
Do you think there was any equipment that could have helped you prevent your injury or help you recover quicker?
Maybe not necessarily equipment, but I think that if the right PT assistance was offered to me prior to the injury, just making sure that, because I was in PT that previous fall for the same knee, just having issues with it clicking and it being painful and supinating, or not supinating, but moving inwards when I would like squat. And so I was in PT for that, and I got released from PT saying that it was all good, and then a few months later I ended up blowing it out. So I think that just being able to have like the right assistance with your training and making sure that you're healthy at all points is definitely important, especially when you're a collegiate athlete and you're hammering your body constantly with lifting and running and stuff like that.
How long total did it take you to recover?
Yeah, like to get back to running, it took almost 6 months, and then to get back to where I was before the injury, I'm still kind of getting back there. So
Do you still have some pain when trying to run, or?
I would say that recently I've been pretty good on that, but coming back in September and October, I had some scar tissue still under my kneecap around the meniscus, and so that was causing me some pain, grinding of the patella in that region. So that I went back to PT for that, and now it's fixed, but it definitely took a while to heal. Yeah.
We last year, I actually transferred that semester, but supposedly we had a lot of shoulder injuries in the fall football season. So recently we've been training a lot of shoulders to try to help the injury prevention. But there's obviously different lifts, equipment and stuff, but I don't know if you can truly prevent an injury. You can definitely build up strength and different things to try to prevent it, but I think at the end of the day you can't necessarily totally prevent injuries.
Prevention.
Especially football, turf-wise, I don't know. There's a lot of non-contact injuries that just happen. Like your knee will just pop and you plant. You can't necessarily prevent those things, but you can do things to try to prevent such a serious injury.
think that's
Okay.
all my questions.
I'm going to be talking about the different traditions. So, one of the biggest controversial topics in sports, I mentioned it in my different essays, is tradition. And a tradition, big tradition in hockey, is fighting. And obviously, this can be very controversial. So, the first question I'm going to ask you: why do sports like hockey keep traditions such as fighting, even if they can be unsafe and controversial?
Well, I think that not only is it really entertaining to watch, it might bring in more people and more money, but it keeps the competitive level to the sport very high. And when there is a lot of fighting in hockey or in football, there's a lot of tension between the players and possibly fighting. It makes the rivalry stronger, and gets people way more involved in watching the sport.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Like professional sports is like a business. Like millions and millions, if not billions of dollars are coming in, and so like they're gonna do anything really that is gonna draw more of a crowd in. So if that's for hockey, if that's like continuing the entertainment of the fight, like in the UFC or something, like that's the whole entire reason people watch it. So if like people are going to fight in hockey, it'll draw that crowd in, more revenue, like more money. I think that's a big role in why fighting is such a prominent part of the sport.
I think there's just something very entertaining, and there's just something
Watching
almost special
watching someone
about
fight.
watching sports players fight each other.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's not too many sports out there that actually allow it. Obviously, there's repercussions, there's fines you can receive. Obviously, it results in penalties, especially if you see fighting in football. There's tons of fines to deal with it, but there's not too many sports like hockey where you can actually fight and it's necessarily kind of allowed. Obviously, there's fines and penalties, but
I mean, even every now and again, even when you see like a pitcher in baseball
Charge
hit one of the
them out.
batters, you see the batter charging him out. I mean, there's just like a good rush
Yeah.
to that. It's exciting.
entertaining. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
do you think there are traditions such as fighting that influence possible behavior outside of the sports? You see it quite a bit where possible parents won't allow their kids to play hockey or watch hockey because there is this violence. Do you see that there are certain things that do influence behavior outside of sports?
I think that is definitely a factor that it can play in, especially young kids when they see professionals fighting. They're probably going to see it as okay, and it's going to help them. Well, it won't help them, but it will encourage them to be more toxic in their sport, which that can be bad. So there are negatives.
Yeah,
to
for sure.
Fighting.
You see nowadays some parents won't even let their kids play football at a young age because it's too violent. Like we had a youth football.
allowed to.
We had a
Yeah,
youth.
I
We had a youth football organization where you started. It was 3rd to 6th grade, and you were wearing pads, helmet. It was tackle football, and most parents wouldn't even let their kids participate because they think it's too violent. Your brain's still developing. There's possible injuries, and I mean, I agree with them if you want to keep your kid out because you think it is too violent, but.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can look at sports traditions and where those help us in our everyday life understand others' traditions, like something we don't agree with that other people are doing?
I'm not sure how to answer that one.
Yeah. All right. Mark-Hel, you want to talk about your mental health topics? And
Yeah, mine's gonna be quick. Okay, so for me, mental health is something that affects almost every college student, not just athletes. College can be exciting, but it comes with a lot of pressure. Students have to balance classes, homework, jobs, relationships, family responsibilities, finances, and there's a personal life in general. And all that can build up and affect how they feel mentally and emotionally. One big reason mental health matters in college is because students are going through major life changes at the time.
Yeah.
Many are living away from home for the first time, trying to make new friends and figure out who they are. That can feel overwhelming. Some students may feel lonely, stressed, anxious, or unsure about their future. even if they seem fine on the outside, they may be struggling on the inside. So my first question is, why is mental health important for college students in general?
I think it's the suicide rate has definitely gone up in the past, or currently is just on a rise, I would say. And especially as you mentioned with college athletes, you see that a lot of times in Division I, the suicide rate is increasing. I just think college, it's very tough for people, the schoolwork alone, let alone moving away from home. And if you're a college athlete, that's stacked on top of it, just not thinking you can perform to the best of your ability, and just not thinking you're not ready for that type of level change going from high school to college. So I think everything on top of each other just leads to people not confident in themselves, their schoolwork, athletics, and things like that. So
I think also with a lot of athletes, especially at the college level, since most of them are pretty good, I would say, their identity kind of gets built into their athletics. Mm-hmm. And when you have a whole lot of school piling up in your life or other personal issues that could worsen your gameplay, I guess, mm-hmm. or worsen how you perform during your sport, I think that can really hurt athletes and how they view themselves.
For sure.
How they perform.
Yeah. I think for me, and probably any college athlete is sometimes we get caught up in not prioritizing our academics as much too, just because we're so focused on our sport, which is kind of like what Perry just said. And for me, I have to remember that as long as I'm trying to the best of my ability in school and in my sport, then I should be able to be content with that, because not many people get the opportunity to be a collegiate athlete. And so just being able to remind yourself that you're doing well.
Yeah, I agree with that. College sports isn't always about just succeeding at that level, as it is pretty tough, and not a lot of people will do it. And a lot of athletes struggle to find their identity outside of sports, but you just have to realize that a lot of it is just building relationships with the people around you, especially in the classroom outside of sports, as these relationships will carry on deeper in your life, whether it's finding a job, I don't know, things like that. So it's important to be able to find things that you enjoy outside of sports and not just leaning specifically on your athletic ability to find success in your everyday life. So.
Okay, my next question is, what can colleges do to better support mental health?
I think they can probably reduce maybe the amount of workload on athletes mm-hmm. for school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do they provide counseling and stuff for
athletes?
I
think most. Well, not just athletes, but they usually have counselors on campus or people that you can reach.
So I think maybe having a counselor specifically for athletics,
mm-hmm. a team counselor or something.
That's something like that, or maybe even create a group of people that can get together mm-hmm. and talk about certain issues going on or whatnot.
Right.
I think another big thing would just be raising awareness. Obviously, even outside of sports, just mental health. Just it's become such a big thing nowadays. I don't know, but it's just raising awareness. Some people don't even realize that other people might be struggling with the way they think about themselves outside of school, outside of sports. People might be struggling with things in their everyday life that we don't know about, and it's important to realize that and understand that.
Yeah, kind of adding to that, just helping athletes understand that their value as a person doesn't come from how well they perform mm-hmm. on the field or on the track.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really hard for athletes, just obviously finding their identity outside of their performances.
That honestly might be a good class. It sounds silly, but for collegiate athletes, especially at this school where 75% of the kids that go to this school are athletes, I feel a lot of people would benefit from making sure that they know that their identity isn't in sports, because mm-hmm. A lot of people aren't going pro after they are out of school.
Yeah.
They're done with sports, and so what then after you graduate and your identity's in sports, you know what I mean?
being able to find yourself outside of sports.
Right. Yeah. Again, this is Zarek.
This is Seth,
It's Mark-Hel.
This is Barry.
and thank you for listening to our podcast on helping outsiders of sports relate to people inside of sports. Thank you.